Anyway, internet. So, as I said earlier, I'm going to try to do a tutorial probably about Tekken, but not necessarily, every week on Thursday. I don't know what time, but last week I talked about linking moves together in this game. And when I say this game, I mean Tekken. This does not necessarily only apply to Tekken Tag 2. These strategies I tell you, or these ideas that I talk about, are going to apply to Tekken 7 as well. They're very like basics of Tekken, fundamental types of concepts, and it really has nothing to do with what game you're playing. So that being said, last week the topic that I covered was the concept of figuring out which moves you want to use and then finding out how to apply them in a match. Like I discussed ways to do something and then use movement to create an opportunity to get damage with the launcher, right? So today what I want to talk about is the opposite side of that coin. So last week, if you go back and watch that tutorial, I talk about something along the lines of, hitting with Dragunov's down 2 and then backdashing and observing what the opponent did. And if they made a mistake, using your tool to capitalize on that mistake and punish them to create damage. So then you can apply your combo and then your okazemi, and then what do you know? You're playing Tekken, right? There's a flip side to that coin. So in the open ground, in the situation where you're just fighting, you're playing, if somebody puts you into one of these situations, this is what I want to talk about today. The other side. Because let's face it, the way to succeed in anything is to have a defensive mindset. Even if you're an aggressive player, defense always is more important, and you have to be thinking defensively. Even if your offense is, your choices in offense sometimes can have defense in mind, like with the crush system, or even in Tekken 7 there's armor moves. So you can really think about these things in really a lot of different ways. But the thing that I really wanted to focus on today, because last time when I was doing the Q&A after, which I'll do again today, I'll answer some questions after the tutorial, but the biggest thing that I noticed people were talking about was, what do I do if the opponent is pressuring me? How do I get out of pressure? They're just keep attacking me and I don't know what to do. Well, Tekken, much like every other fighting game, is a game of situations. And not only are you putting your opponent into a situation, but your opponent is constantly putting you into situations. Now, the reason Tekken is such a hard game is when in Street Fighter, if somebody puts you into a situation, your choices are really cut and dry. It's like, if you get knocked down in Street Fighter, you don't really have that many good options at your disposal. You can get up and backdash, you can get up and do something invincible like a DP or something, or an ultra. So a decision to attack, or a decision to backdash, or you can just block. And when I say block, that means a couple options: stand block, crouch block, or you can neutral jump. These are like some options, right? But in Tekken, just a simple situation like a jab, or a situation like, let's get even more complex, like sidestep 1+2 by Wang, right? At the wall. This is a situation I've put you in, right? But the difference between Tekken and Street Fighter is you have an entire fucking rainbow of different choices you can make as Kazuya in this situation. And the character that you select can really change this group of decisions that are available to you. Like, for example, if you have Lars, the decision of doing a lightning screw will be available to you, while that decision is not available to you as Kazuya. So these things are really, they can become complex if you let them. But the key to remember is that all these people out there who are wondering, how do you become good at Tekken? How do you defend under this pressure? What makes you good at Tekken? What really makes you good at Tekken, the real honest-to-God truth of what makes you good at Tekken is being familiar with the situation. If you get put into a situation and you're unfamiliar with it, like let's say Kazuya has never ever in a million, he's never even heard of Wang. What's Wang? I've never heard of Wang, right? He gets put into this situation he doesn't know, he doesn't understand, because he's blocking this move, the wall's to his back, he doesn't know how many frames this move is on block. It's just like he's completely in the dark, right? If you're completely in the dark, you're dead, right? So this is one of the situations I'm talking about. And the way to get better at Tekken is to understand that when you're put into this situation, you have choices. And you have to make the right choice. Now, what the right choice is different based on this very specific situation. This specific situation has to do with where the wall is, where the other wall is, who your opponent is, what he did last time he put you in this situation. All those variables really go into this equation. The reason I bring this up is, much like in Street Fighter, if you go by the book, a wake-up DP or a wake-up Ultra is a bad decision, right? I think everyone who knows about Street Fighter can agree that that's like a scrubby decision, right? But if you watch Punko, if you watch Sanford Kelly, if you watch any of the top players, on occasion, they're going to do a wake-up DP or even sometimes a wake-up Ultra, right? Maybe not a wake-up Ultra, but sometimes. Why did they do that, right? The reason they did that is because there is some external factor that's turning this shitty decision into a good decision. And that's where the mind games kick in, right? So that's really the beauty of fighting games, the mind games, right? But excluding the mind games, let's pretend like mind games don't exist. So in this world that we're talking about, there is a right and there is a wrong decision. Wrong being the lightning screw or the wake-up DP or whatever. Right being something very safe and defensive. For example, blocking or sidewalking to avoid. This is like a logical, there's a wall behind me, right? So the logic tells me if a wall's behind me, I want to get away from the wall. Because in Tekken, the wall means, really what the wall means is, it gives your opponent more launchers, more ways to cause damage. So, for example, Wang's forward 3, which is a mid homing move, homing as in you cannot sidestep it, and it's safe. So, if I put you in this situation with the horse tamer, and then I follow up with a forward 3, you cannot sidestep. So, as Kazuya, when you block this horse tamer, and you're forced to make a decision, instinct might tell you, I better sidestep to get away from the wall. But that was the wrong decision because you didn't know that Wang has this move, and this is a very common follow-up because of how obviously good it is. Logically, they want to move, you're making it so they cannot move. If they duck, they're going to get hit, and it's also uninterruptible. So, I mean, this is like, clearly, this is a trap. It's a trap, right? If you don't know what you're doing as Kazuya, you are going to fall for the trap and you are going to eat a shitload of damage. So this is exactly what I was talking about. The situation is horse tamer into forward 3. It's really a matter of understanding that this situation exists, and when the time comes for you to be put in the situation, you have these options. They pop into your head. 1, 2, 3, 4 options, right? Whatever they are. And then it can be more or less depending on the character, but let's just keep it simple for now. Duck, right? Ducking, bad idea, right? Sidestep, in this case, bad idea. So, most of the time, a good decision in this case would be to block. Why is that? Because this horse tamer gives you the pressure in order to use this homing move. But after the homing move, there really isn't that much I can do. It's like minus whatever on block. Look at how far I am from the opponent. Even like, you know, there are a lot of decisions I can make from this range that will whiff, right? So you, by using the right decision, and the way you made the right decision is you were familiar with the situation. By doing that, you were able to get out of wall pressure, basically, right? I mean, this is really a simple concept. You are unfamiliar with the situation, therefore you are getting your butthole ruined. But once you're familiar with this situation, it's like, oh yeah, just make sure you don't fucking sidestep or duck or attack when you get hit by horse tamer. Now that you're familiar with this situation, right, you know, as Kazuya, you don't want to attack, you don't want to duck, and you don't want to sidestep. So, that means just chill out and block, let him do the forward 3, and then you're cool. You're good to go. Now you know that, right? I'm so familiar with that situation. I've seen it a fucking million times. If Wang does horse tamer on me with my back to the wall, I am never going to do these 3 things. But, wait a minute. I know for a fact that this guy's Wang is going to do sidestep 1+2 into forward 3. I know that. It's so for sure in my mind that I would bet money that this motherfucker is going to do that trap, right? So, Now that you have this hard read, right? Just like in Street Fighter, just like in any other game where Punko does wake up DP or whoever does the fucking wrong decision, right? Here comes the wrong decision. So, if let's say you're Lars, or let's say you're another character that has something really rewarding for a kick counter or something like that, right? If you know I'm going to do the forward 3, maybe you'll want to grab that leg. Or maybe you'll want to do a lightning screw underneath it. You know, this is where it becomes, the mind games come into the picture, right? The right, correct, smart, by the book Tekken decision is to just block. Just block. Don't do anything, right? But there are mind games here. There are mind games here. And Kazuya is so sure. I've done it a million times. He's sure. He's sure I'm going to do that forward 3. Now, he's going to decide, okay, I don't know what Kazuya specifically has to beat this, but let's say he had something to beat it, right? That's when you start applying the quote-unquote Punko, quote-unquote wrong decision to your fighting game flow. And the thing that makes the best Tekken players are the ones that are extremely familiar, just the same way you're familiar with this situation, right? I mean, that's it. I've told you exactly how to deal with this, right? You are, everyone in this chat room, 500 people, you guys all know that if Wang does sidestep 1+2 and your back's to the wall, you don't want to do any of that shit, right? Now, you can start branching out. You can start branching out because you know, all right, this is what he's going to do. I'm never going to fall for that. But if I'm sure he's going to do it, let me explore. Let me explore what options I have with my character. This is where the fun comes in. This is really one of the most fun things about Tekken. Because let's say you play Roger, right? And Roger has this move where he jumps in the air and does some weird, stupid animation, right? That move sucks. It never works. It's not good for anything. But I recorded Wang doing sidestep 1+2 into forward 3, and I realized that on block, if I use that weird move, it jumps over the forward 3, and I will fuck Wang up for trying that. That is really like the art of war in Tekken. Like, I know that I'm going to have to fight Eris, and I know when Eris is playing Wang, he's going to do sidestep 1+2, forward 3. But I discovered that if he does that, I can do this shit to get under it, or I could do this shit to get over it. So this is where the game becomes really deep, because when I fight you in the tournament, and when I put you in this position, and you do a lightning screw, and it goes under it, or you do whatever, and it beats it, I'm going to be like, ooh. So you're telling me that if you play as whatever shitty fucking character you're playing against, and you do that move at that moment, I'm fucked. Look at what's going on here. We're in a lasagna situation now. Because next time, when I do sidestep 1+2, forward 3, maybe I'm not going to do forward 3. Because last time, this guy was like, ooh, he can lightning screw under that. Or whatever, I'm using it as an example. I don't even know if you can necessarily lightning screw. The point is that the best Tekken players are familiar with more situations. So, let's say someone like Mr. Naps, right? Mr. Naps, his nerd levels are through the roof. He's been in every fucking situation. He can tell you a combo that works on that cactus in the background, and it only works when you combo them right next to that fucking cactus. It won't work anywhere else, right? The reason Jimmy J. Tran is so good is because he's familiar with the situation. If he launches you and they're at a shitty angle, he's going to be like, oh yeah, I got to use this combo at that angle because he's familiar with the situation. If he hits you with a side wall splat, he knows exactly what he needs to do because he's familiar. He's familiar with the situation. So it might seem kind of needless to say, but Tekken is really a game of situations. And the more familiar you are with all the possibilities and all the variables, the better you'll be. So those people who say, I don't know how to deal with pressure, I don't know what to do when they're pressuring me. Well, all this pressure is just a sequence of situations that you're being put in. Or you can even look at it as you are putting your opponent in. I mean, it doesn't matter who's in the situation. The point is that you have decisions to make. And the reason you're getting fucked up is because you're in the dark. You don't know shit. You don't know where the light switch is. You're knocking over the fucking lampshade. You're fucking up because you don't know. You've never been in this room before and the lights are off. You need to, before you even walk into the room, you need to turn the light on, examine your environment, and realize, oh man, if this motherfucker comes from here, the window is over there, and I could jump out the window. You know, it's just like that. And really, the best Tekken players, they know the fucking schematics of the entire mansion. They know where every fucking room is. They know where every zombie is. It's like really a matter of knowledge. Knowledge is the most important thing, especially once you've established that you know. In the last episode, I talked about control, you know, being able to manipulate your character exactly the way you want to. Once you're past that level, once you're at the level where I say, hey dude, sidestep that right. If you're on that level, then that's what it's all about. Understanding the situations and becoming familiar with them, so that when time comes and you're playing against fucking whatever random character, when that time comes, you're gonna be like, yeah, watch this shit. He's gonna hit me with the lion tamer. I'm gonna grab his fucking leg. I'm gonna break it, and then I'm gonna do some sick okizemi on him because I know exactly what angle it's gonna leave me at. I mean, this is all research, you know. This is all research and knowledge. In a game like Tekken, and you know, the other day I was watching Ultra Chen, and they were talking about how in Super Turbo there are only whatever amount of characters, and in that game you really don't need to learn that many matchups. But in Ultra Street Fighter 4, there are so many characters that you really need to learn all these matchups, right? The reason Tekken is not as popular as Street Fighter 4 is because the entire cast of matchups that you have to learn in Street Fighter 4 are like the equivalent of one matchup in Tekken, because there are so many moves and there are so many potential situations that you will never learn everything. There's too much, and there's too much undiscovered about the game. The lack in popularity of these games really means that they don't grow as fast as they could. So Tekken really is like a bottomless pit of knowledge, and if you expect to reach a point where you will know everything, that's not the right attitude. You're never going to be at that level. I watch people like JDCR, and I feel like this guy is still starting to learn. He's like, oh, what that doesn't sidestep, that doesn't track that way. I'm watching JDCR play, and I'm thinking, dude, the fucking best player on the planet is learning about Tekken. Every round he's learning about Tekken. So what does that tell you? It tells you that you got a lot to fucking learn, right? And you have to have that attitude of situations, one step at a time. Who's fucking with you, right? Let's say you're getting owned by Law. He's doing Shaolin spins, right? Or let's say you're playing against a Dragunov player. He keeps pressuring you at the wall with these running twos and stuff. You have to understand what you're dealing with. When you block a running two, you're at -4. When you're at -4 against Dragunov, he has X option, Y option, and Z option. What do I have at my disposal that's going to beat X, Y, and Z? And if he doesn't do X, Y, and Z, it's not going to fucking pull your pants down, right? It's a relatively safe decision that's not going to get you fucked if you're wrong, if he doesn't do X, Y, and Z. You see what I mean? It's all a matter of situations and familiarity, and then followed by decision making. Thank you very, very much.
Too good. Oh.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You guys are really derailing my thought logic process here. But hopefully this concept that I've presented to you about situations, hopefully that sinks in. It's kind of needless to say if you're an experienced fighting game player, but really, if you're one of those people who's wondering, what does it mean to be good at Tekken? What does it mean? How do you get better at Tekken? What does that even mean? You look at these fucking nerds like Jimmy J, or like, anyone that's really, really exceptionally solid at the game. They are familiar with the game. Every situation. I remember it. Dude, I learned this about Tekken in 2005. I learned this in Tekken 5. You know how I learned this? Core, you know Core, right? From Texas. He used to play Ganryu, right? And Chet Chetty, you guys know Chet Chetty, Paul player. He played against Core at EVO 2005. And when I asked, he got his ass kicked by Core, of course. When I asked Chetty, hey, what was that match about? Like, how'd it go? He said, man, he really knows all of the little situations. And he did the right thing. He was ready to do the right thing, and I wasn't. And I thought about that. That really sank in, And when I thought about that, I thought, man, so you're telling... Because at the time, I thought Chet Chetty was like, I hadn't even really learned I was like the learning phase for me in Tekken. Though it's still the learning phase, I was still really like a sponge for information. So when Chet Shetty told me that, I was thinking about it. I was like, that's really what it's all about, huh? If you know all the situations, it doesn't even matter if you're fucking good. You'll win because you know the situation. Look at the damage in this game. Or even other Tekkens. It doesn't matter. The damage is there. If you make them pay for that one situation, like for example, we're playing a 2 out of 3 fight, right? Doesn't matter what Tekken. We're playing 2 out of 3. If you know that you could really fuck me over for doing the sidestep 1+2 forward 3, you could really screw me over, and you do it, you just took 50% of my life bar, potentially more with the Okizemi, and we're in a fucking tournament where it's 2 out of 3. I mean, dude, I'm already like in big trouble. 50% of one life bar in a tournament is like a lot of your resources gone. A lot of your life is gone, right? So this guy who just beat you doesn't necessarily even need to be better than you. He just needs to know the scenario. He needs to know the situation. And sometimes you'll get fucked up by someone who sucks because you're not familiar with the situation and they're doing all this bullshit. For example, bears or fucking unpopular character city, like whoever, random characters that you don't know about. These people, I mean, that's the way it works. That's really the definition of a gimmick, right? A gimmick is something that hits you, fucks you up, but now you know, and next time it won't work. It's like a parlor trick, or like, you know, a magician's prestige. Watch this shit. Boom! Fucking rabbits behind your ear, motherfucker. But next time you're gonna be like, wait a minute, I'm gonna cover my ear. There's not gonna be any rabbit this time. The prestige, you know, that's the way it works. You just have to make sure that there are a limited number of tricks that are at your opponent's disposal. You've done your research, you know. I don't know, hopefully that point got across there. I think it's something really important that a lot of people overlook. It's really all about the situations and knowledge. And that goes for any fighting game, but especially Tekken, because there are so many of them. You could be put into 100 situations in one round, 200 situations in one round, right? That's a lot of situations. Imagine if you're extremely familiar with 185 of those situations. The other guy's fucked. It's just like that, simple as that. So anyway, I guess that'll wrap that up. I don't want to take too long with this, but hopefully that helped you guys out, at least in understanding, you know, why you're getting wrecked by these offensive opponents, or why you're struggling when you're in the clutch, when someone puts you in a situation like Horse Tamer. Hopefully that'll help you out in the future. If anybody has any kinds of questions or anything that you want me to discuss, I'm willing to do that for the next, you know, few minutes. We can discuss whatever problems you're having, or whatever about Tekken 7 or Final Round or whatever you guys want, and I'll upload this portion as well